What's up, everybody? Today we're going to have a bit of a look at this Chatbot Arena leaderboard and talk about some of the results coming from here. So what is this Chatbot Arena leaderboard? Well, it's really just a kind of battleground for chatbots to compete against each other and see which one is the best. We'll talk about how they kind of rank these chatbots, but it's actually pretty cool, the system they have in place to figure out which one is performing the best. All right, so let's just kind of look at some of the ones at the top. So you can already see GPT-4 is kind of taken 4 of the top 5 spots, which is pretty crazy. But what's going on here is OpenAI has released different versions of GPT-4, and so each one of these has performed quite well in accordance with this leaderboard. So that's not too surprising, as we know GPT-4 is quite powerful. Currently, Google's Bard is in third place. This is built on Gemini Pro, which is a newer large language model. You may have heard of Palm 2 or Palm, but Gemini is a new large language model, and this one is currently in third place. All right, so the next non-OpenAI and non-Google one is created by Mistral. So they have a proprietary one as well as an open source one, as you can see below in 12th position. I do want to say that Mistral is a bit different than the OpenAI and the Google models, in that they're using this technique called a mixture of experts. This is a newer method that looks somewhat promising in making the models perform better with perhaps not using as much compute. So you can see in this table there's all sorts of stats going on here for these different models. Some of the easier ones, the knowledge cutoff is just, what is the cutoff for the data that is used to train the model. So for instance, some of the GPT-4 models only go up to 2021. So if you're asking questions that are relevant to periods beyond that, say, current day, it may not get those quite right. Perhaps more importantly, the license category gives you the kind of license that's attached to these models, which is super important if you're going to try to use these in your business. The only license here that I would have recognized is the Apache 2.0, which is basically a version of open source. So that Mixtral model has the advantage of being open source, which can be nice as a developer. Now the meat of this table is really that Arena ELO, which a lot of work has actually gone into to create those numbers. So let's talk a bit about that. So first of all, ELO is really just a rating system. It's a way to compare different players in a game. So I think for me the most common one would be chess. In fact, if we head over to chess.com, we can actually see the ELO ratings of the top chess players in the world. So that 2830 is the ELO rating of Magnus Carlsen, so he's the currently number 1 ranked player, and so on and so forth. So basically, this large language model ranking system is kind of the analog of this ranking system. So one way to think about ELO is typically 2 players will play a game, and the winner will get an increase in their ELO, and the loser will get a decrease in their ELO. So then the question is, well, what kind of game are these large language models playing? Well, we'll talk about that, but that's actually a pretty interesting part of this table. So if we look at that top sentence, we're going to see that it says that this Chatbot Arena is a crowdsourced open platform for LLM evals. Okay, that's good. We've collected over 200,000 human preference votes to rank LLMs with the ELO ranking system. So that's pretty interesting and gives us a hint on how they did this, even though we'll talk about it a bit more later. So basically what's happening is a user will see 2 responses from 2 different LLMs, and they're actually just going to rank which one they like better. And that's the game that's going to be played to determine the ELO. In fact, clicking a link on that page, you can see that here's the UI that's associated to this game. So you can actually compare and contrast different models of your own and contribute to this. You can see they have a place for you to enter your prompt. They have Model A and Model B, and you can decide for yourself which one you like better, and that's going to help contribute to the ELO of the model. All right, so I'm actually going to try it out. So I asked what is mixture of experts in NLP, since we just talked about that, and I got 2 responses. The first one is super in-depth and goes on for a while. I'll scroll down a bit. And then the second one is kind of short. They're both kind of know to some extent what's going on. And if we go over here, we can kind of see that this one goes into quite a bit of detail in a sort of outline fashion. So you could decide for yourself which one you like better. I mean, the first one seems to give more information, whereas the second one is a bit kind of terse and maybe not going into the details as much. But anyways, you can vote. There's 4 different kind of votes. You could vote Model A is better. You could vote for Model B. You could say, hey, it's a tie. I liked them both equally. Or you could actually say, I actually didn't like either one of them. So that's pretty interesting. And these ratings can be used in conjunction with all the other ratings from other users to kind of decide which model is the best. So anyways, going back to the leaderboard, we now have a little bit of a better idea of how these arena ELOs are computed. And this is kind of a nice leaderboard to keep in mind if you're using large language models, as you can keep up to date pretty easily with the top large language models that you might want to try for your own problems. One last thing I'll mention is they have a link to a notebook, Google Colab notebook, that you can kind of scroll through here, and they kind of do some sort of data exploration in terms of how these ELO scores are computed, and also just some data about the responses. So you can kind of see some nice pictures here. The counts, which follow some sort of exponential long-tail distribution. Some sort of, basically a table about the battles, and so on and so forth. So you can kind of see all sorts of tables and actually get the raw data if you want about the different battles, they call them, different games, different comparisons of the large language model. And then they also go into a little bit about how the ELO ratings are computed, which is can be interesting. And this, if you've seen ELO before, this looks somewhat familiar. So anyways, I think I'll end the video here. I hope you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one.